Hi everyone! Welcome back to another Guided Nature Play teacher training video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than we've done in the past with our Guided Nature Play videos. We're not going to be walking you through a sensory or connection activity, but instead we're going to be talking a little bit about how to actually structure these activities. We're going to walk you through the steps that you need to do to make these activities work for your class, for your young learners, and for you to have a successful adventure out in nature. Before we get into talking about the steps of the activity, let's define what we actually mean by guided nature play. So guided nature play is kind of what the name implies. It's really heavily focused on play. So having children be able to be imaginative and creative while also sort of having this guidance and structure from you, the educator. And the nature comes in because the focus is having those experiences in a natural space. We like to break guided nature play up into two different categories: our sensory activities and our connection activities. Now, the sensory activities are about engaging one singular sense at a time, be it touch, smell, hearing, or sight. We usually stay away from taste for obvious reasons. The purpose of the sensory activities are to get children really comfortable in nature, having them be curious about their environment, and exploring and discovering in unique ways that they might not have done before. Our connection activities are just a little bit different. They don't follow the same game style that the sensory activities do, and they might not involve any props or tools at all. The main purpose of our connection activities are to help children to form emotional bonds with the natural spaces around them, to see nature as a place of creativity and imagination and safety, where they can see nature as the tool for self-expression and adventure and discovery and fun. There's a lot of room for adaptation and flexibility. There really is no right or wrong way to have these experiences out in nature. That being said, there is a structure that we do like to follow for all of our guided nature play activities, whether it's sensory or connection. These steps help the activity have purpose and flow. It makes sure that everyone is involved and engaged the whole time. It helps you bring magic to these activities, and it helps you have a really positive experience out in nature. So let's jump in. Preparation is key. It's why it's the very first step. Before you take your students and young learners out into nature, you need to walk the area that you're going to be using for your activity. Assess the area for risks or changes since the last time that you've been out there. Trees might have fallen over during a storm, or maybe the area is a lot more wet than you remember because of a lot of rain that's happened recently. Knowing your area beforehand also allows you to make sure that it's a good fit for your specific guided nature play activity. Let's just say you're doing an activity like leaf slides. It's really important to know that in the area that you're choosing, there's at least one leafy tree that can provide the leaves for the activity. Or if you're doing something like wild gardens, you want to make sure there's lots of stumps or mossy rocks or cool little features in nature beforehand. And you want to make sure that there's enough room and it's safe for your students to get down low onto their tummies, and you know they're going to be comfortable doing so. Another big part of preparation is making sure that you know your activity beforehand. Take the props and tools out that you're going to be using and make sure you have enough of them for all of your students. Make sure you're comfortable with how to use them. Make sure you know where they are in your teacher backpack. When you're out with children in nature, you don't want to be rummaging around trying to find the activity props when you're doing an explanation and trying to keep this level of magic and excitement. Another really important part of preparation is being comfortable with how your activity is actually going to work. You want to know the steps of the activity, and you want to know the purpose and end goal of the activity well before you're trying to explain it to the children. In our guided nature play video playlist, we go through some of our activities. We also show you a little bit of how the activity works and what you can actually say when you're leading it. We refer to these a lot as lead-ins. It's kind of like a little leader script so that you can get the kids really excited and then allow the activity to flow naturally into play. If you've taken the Reconnecting with Nature guided nature play workshop, which if you're watching these videos, you most likely have, we provided you with a manual that you got to take home with you. And this manual has a ton of those leader scripts for all sorts of guided nature play, sensory and connection activities. Now you know your area well ahead of time, you're comfortable with the tools and props, and you know what you're going to be saying during the activity. Now is time to take those children out into nature for some guided nature play. That brings us to step 2. As soon as you're in the forest or available green space with your students or young learners, you're going to get them to circle up right away. A really quick way to do this is a fun little mini game called Velcro elbows. You pretend that there's a little bit of Velcro on each of your elbows and they get stuck to everybody else's, and this is naturally going to form a perfect circle once everyone's Velcro is stuck together. Now, on the count of 3, you're going to rip the Velcro apart. What noise does Velcro make? That's right. 1, 2, 3, and the Velcro goes up to your lips for respectful listening, and everyone takes a seat. Now you are in a perfect circle. You might be asking, Allie, why is a circle so important for guided nature play? I'm in my classroom all the time and everyone's facing me at the front, and that seems to work. Well, guided nature play is in nature, and nature can be a little distracting. When you have everyone down in a circle, it does a couple of really important things. It brings everyone down to the same level, including you. Yes, you are still the teacher, you are still in charge, you are still the guide, but in this unfamiliar space to a child, it brings everyone down to a quiet calmness where they can focus on you. They tend to actually listen better when they're able to see everybody. Everyone is on equal footing right away. It forms a sense of community and unity before you even begin. Step 3 seems kind of silly to have it be its own step, but it's really, really important. Once you're all in the circle, you want everyone to sit down. It may be a little bit uncomfortable at first for children to sit on the ground in nature. They've probably been told their whole childhood not to get dirty. It's kind of sad, but it's just how it happens. As the guide, we want you down on the ground first. You're going to be role modeling that behavior for your students. You want them to see getting down on the ground is not only safe, but it's really, really fun. Getting low to the ground allows them the ability to explore and discover in ways that they haven't before. Having you do it first is going to make it a lot easier when the activity actually begins. Now it's time for step 4. A little self-explanatory, but what we really want to highlight in this step is the way that you can go about doing this. The tone of voice that you use is going to set the tone for the entire activity, but also your experience in the woods. This is your time to really let your excitement shine through. Of course, you can be boisterous and loud, and you can be so excited, and this is the coolest thing ever. Or, my personal favorite, as I'm sure you can tell, is to really hush your voice down and bring about, again, my favorite word, magic. You want to bring their attention in. When you hush your voice down, suddenly they have to lean in to listen a little bit, to hear what you're going to say. It's almost like your adventure is beginning with a bit of a secret. Magic and imagination is such a vital part of guided nature play. So starting an explanation with a tone of magic is such a great way to have it be integrated throughout the entire outdoor experience. Another really helpful way during your activity explanation to sort of keep attention and engagement on you is to have a tool or something special in your hand. Let's say you're doing our leaf slide activity. Having a very special leaf or just one clothespin or leaf slide gets them really curious about what it is that you're even doing, or why they're out in the forest, or what's about to happen next. It's really important that you don't hand these props out to the students right away, because once they have something exciting in their hand, boom, they're gone. So make sure that you have something that you can hold on to keep their attention, but just wait a little bit to give them their own set of tools. So your activity is now explained. That brings us to step number 5. Setting clear, distinct boundaries for the area that you're going to be playing in is incredibly vital. This is what's going to help you as the teacher or the nature guide keep everybody safe. You know where every single child is at one time, and they understand where the expectation is that they're allowed to explore and play. You're able to focus on the activity itself. You're able to be a part of the activity with the students down on the ground, etc. And you're not going to be as worried about who's wandering off where. I like to say when you're out in nature, use nature. So find really distinct, clear landmarks, and the goal is to draw a big circle around them. The children can really know exactly where you want them to be by staying within that circle and seeing those landmarks before you begin. Emphasizing to your children that they don't need to go far to discover. If they're using all of their senses, if they're using the tools that you're about to give them, they can get low to the ground or look up under the trees and leaves, and have them be really excited about the area that you're talking about and challenge them to find everything that they need for the activity or complete the activity within that set area. The props and tools are the last thing that you are going to do for your guided nature play activity, because the second that they are in the children's hands, they are gone. They are out of the circle, they are playing in the woods, and that's exactly what we want. Make sure that the activity is clearly explained and everyone knows what's going to happen. You want to make sure the expectations are set. You want to make sure that those boundaries are really clear and agreed upon by the group. If the activity is going to have the children working in pairs, you want to make sure that you pair them up first, and once all of that's done, put those tools in those children's hands and go have an adventure. Step number 7 is be a part of the magic. The best way to have the most exciting guided nature play activity with your students is to be a part of the activity. Don't just be standing around supervising. Really role model getting down on your tummy, getting low to explore, being a magical leader, being really excited about what your students are discovering. You want to make sure that you're asking a lot of questions. One thing that you can do that helps you keep control of the group is to make time to go around to each of the individual groups. You can ask them questions about what is it that you're doing there and what are you discovering, and you know, if you're doing wild gardens, for example, oh, Jamie and Jane, tell me a little bit about your garden. What's the name of your garden and what is your favorite flag that you've put down so far? You want to be giving them lots of praise and encouragement and giving them each your individual attention. This also allows you to have some time to go around and help any of the students or children that are struggling a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit hard to get into the activity because it's so new and unfamiliar. Having you help them out a little bit one-on-one can give them the encouragement and the comfort that they need to then go off and explore on their own. It also helps you with time management. Which groups are almost completed and which groups are completely done and just sort of waiting for the next instruction, or which groups are maybe really into it and really taking their time to explore and discover. They might really need a 5-minute countdown, getting them ready to transition to the next part of the activity. The final part of guided nature play is to close the activity really well with a sharing circle. Once everyone's finished or it's time to transition, have the children come back to either the center of the boundaries or wherever you originally had your explanation. Get them to Velcro elbows back into their circle. 1, 2, 3, everyone sit down, respectful listening, and begin a sharing circle. Having a bit of time to share their experiences is so valuable to a young child and can be really powerful for a class to do together. A really great way to structure this is have everyone share one word about the wild garden that they've created, or share one word about their favorite discovery. That one-word sharing method is a really great thing for time management. It doesn't put a lot of expectation on the child to have a big story. One word allows everyone to share, it allows everyone's experiences and discoveries to be valued, and it doesn't put a ton of pressure on maybe the shyer students. The one-word sharing method isn't the only way to go about having a sharing circle. Especially with older groups, having some time to really kind of flesh out their experiences together is so wonderful. It opens up room for discussion about what they've experienced. It allows time for some fun little anecdotes. It's a really great bonding time for the class. And again, everyone's experiences are valued. So whether it's searching for hidden gems in the forest or some wild gardens, what matters most is creating a space for children to see nature as a place of creativity and imagination and learning and critical thinking and empathy and fun. That's our whole purpose of guided nature play. So if your students are safe and they're having a good time and they're out in nature playing and discovering and having an adventure, That's guided nature play, and you're doing it well. You don't need to be overwhelmed with complicated steps for an activity, and you don't need to overwhelm yourself with a ton of props or a ton of scripts. As long as it's working for you and it's working for your class, that's perfect. That's guided nature play. Using these steps, some gentle guidance from you, some enthusiasm and careful preparation, the courage to embrace discoveries and learning opportunities as they happen in the moment, and using a little bit or a lot of magic, you can inspire a lifelong love of nature in these children.